Hello and welcome back to another episode of Only a Bag, the guide to Italian travel. I'm Darcy Melton.
And I'm Nathaniel Mellor. Thank you all so much for coming back and listening to another episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for being here.
We say that preemptively, hoping people are listening to this, by the way. I realize there's no live studio audience where we're thanking them in person. There's no handshakes being given out. It's
just all of you listening in the future.
It's like a little prayer. Like, thank you all for listening. I hope you are.
And thank you, everybody, for your follows and your comments. They make us so happy, and also help other people to find us.
Absolutely. I was going to say thank you, too, for the people who you put out a poll on the history of the Ferragosto. I think we had a couple responses to that, and then we had a couple of people just basically who mentioned liking the sort of history thing. So we
that's amazing. I like telling history things.
Yeah.
As a non-historian.
So no, we thought it'd be nice to if basically coming out with an additional episode a week, essentially, talking about something kind of historically related, not necessarily historically.
Like a story.
Yeah, a story. Yeah, like a kind of a deep dive on some aspect that isn't. Well, I think a good way of putting it is just simply like before we went traveling to Italy the first time back in 2015, I think you watched a lot of those Yale lectures on Pompeii and on Rome, and you just was like, I just want to know about these things before I get there.
Mm-hmm. And then I immediately forgot.
Well,
I knew that information
glorious
at one
moment. No, Pompeii though, you had a lot of memory. You remember a lot about it.
Oh, great. I don't remember them now.
Flavium and the other things, the holes in the roof with the water collecting.
I know, but now I can't remember their names.
Well,
which is why I'm doing the research and producing history story episodes.
So that's pretty exciting. And also I think they have a kind of a fun. We're going to try to have some of them like a human interest angle or something. Mm-hmm. All that is to say is if that's something you like, we're going to hopefully roll those out in the next week or two from whenever this is. This is the first week of August. And those will probably come out either on Tuesday or Thursday. We're not sure. We didn't want to put them with Wednesday, so that way we're staggered a little bit. And so it's a little bit fun for people who love hearing our voice more than once a week, which is quite vain sounding. But no, that we think they're going to come out either Tuesday or Thursday.
Mm-hmm. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah. And for the last of our lovely bookkeeping, if you enjoy this episode, we would love it if you were to leave a review. Again, thank you, as Darcy mentioned earlier, thank you seriously to everybody who has been leaving reviews. I do check it periodically, and at least I check Spotify and Apple because I have no idea how to access all the other like Stitcher and Overcast and other ones. And they tick up. They're like every time I check, I was like, oh, there's another one. And it's really exciting. It really does. And again, it helps us out because we, I don't know, it just helps us out because I think that it's hard to find us when you just type in like Italy podcast. Mm-hmm. So I think these sort of the reviews do genuinely help us get a little bit more visible and get a little bit more seen. And it's a lot more, I don't know, it's just fun to interact. It's just fun to see interaction. It just helps. It's like, it just knows that we're not screaming into the void, I think.
Yeah,
is always a nice way to put it. But if you'd like to follow us on Instagram, you can do so at only_a_bag. You can go to our website, onlyabag.com, if you'd like to just check out some of our articles. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can reach us at onlyabagofficial@gmail.com or message us, of course, on Instagram. And then I think that's pretty much it. We're kind of low key with social media.
We are, yeah.
We do have a newsletter coming out as well. Eventually, like it's a very low. Again, speaking of low key, it's going to be a monthly newsletter at best. But that's just going to kind of be an update of like kind of a monthly roundup, or maybe what to expect in the month. Like as we mentioned in the last episode, it was Ferragosto in August, and that would be something that would have been in the newsletter, just like it's Ferragosto, here's what to expect from the trains, here's what to expect from the cities, super, super, super brief, just a little like something to your inbox that kind of helps plan a trip, or maybe just give some information that might be pertinent to your trip, like if a certain train line is down, or if there's certain, like I think right now there's a swim warning in the Adriatic because it has all this algae right now, and it's not dangerous, but it just makes it it's just you're just kind of covered in algae when you swim.
Yeah, it's dangerous for the fish though, right?
It's dangerous for fish. It does suffocate fish and
other sea life,
mollusks. Yeah. And which again is actually, I guess, an interesting warning for if you're going to be on the Adriatic, you might not find a plethora of sea life that you were expecting. So these are just things that we thought could be put in the newsletter. once a month. So if you like that, if that sounds interesting to you, you can find our newsletter at onlybag.com. Without further ado, I think that's everything.
Okay, what are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about, and this is going to be the name of the episode in some way, but it sounds unwieldy, but the understanding the Italians' hotel star system, or what does the star system mean for Italy's hotels?
Okay, and Nathaniel's going to tell me about this because I have no idea.
Yes, well, I think neither of us had any idea up until, I don't know, about a month ago, 2 months ago, I think.
But I also didn't know that, like, the American star system kind of meant anything. I just always thought any star system was like, oh, 5 stars means it's nice.
Exactly.
2 stars means it's
not
less
so nice.
Yeah, but that's not. That's not what it is.
And actually, it's interesting. I'm glad you brought up the States, because the States has kind of a star system, but since the advent of like large conglomerate, multinational, huge hotels that has sort of homogenized things across the board, like a Holiday Inn in Milwaukee and a Holiday Inn in like Albany, New York, are probably going to be the exact same in terms of cleanliness, in terms of what you can expect from the mattresses, the linens, the placement of like everything. It's just
it's all beige. It's all exactly the same.
And in some ways that's really good, because it basically makes it so you know what to expect. It's not like your road trip from Milwaukee to Albany is now like, oh God, this one looks a little bit sketchy, but let's just stay there and hope for the best. So that is in the States, at least, the star system doesn't mean that much. Like a 5-star roadside hotel might not be as good as a Holiday Inn or a Hamptons Express. What is it called? Hampton something?
Hampton Inn is a thing.
Okay.
And then they all have like the subset, the Comfort Inn suites, and
the place that leaves light on. Can't remember.
It's Motel 8.
Motel 8. Oh, it is Motel. So that's all to say, Italy does have its own star system as well, and it can be a little bit confusing at first. And I guess the first thing to sort of bring up is the fact that Europe, by and large, has one overarching star system, and it's quite loose in the sense of it's just to kind of create a sense of, not to keep using the word homogenization, but again, the sense of homogenization across European countries. So that way, like a 1-star in France and a 1-star in Italy or 1-star in Spain might be similar-ish.
Yeah, that makes sense.
However, that's kind of where it ends. Italy, prior to 2009, did not really have any standard star system. Every different region had its own.
Prior to 2009?
I know,
that's really
quite
recently. Okay.
Right? So it's fascinating because, like, again, for people listening, like, you might not really care about regions. Like Rome, for instance, is in the Lazio region. Venice is in the Veneto region. Amalfi Coast is in the Campania region. So all 3 of those would have a different star system. Like if you're like, I booked us all 3 stars hotels everywhere we're going, you might have a very different experience in each of those 3-star hotels.
And that was prior to 2009?
Yeah, I think it came out like late 2008 was this like decree that basically was like, we're going to sort of create a sense of these are the standard minimums of what to expect from 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star. So with that being said, we figured we start at the low end of things and the 1-star. And when we kind of are done with this, it shouldn't be too long. Darcy and I are also going to kind of we're going to give you. We've already had the information, but we're going to give a little information as to what to expect, or what maybe serves your needs better, I think, or best when it comes to 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, as well as like some other tools such as like using Google Maps and TripAdvisor and things like that to figure out what might actually serve your need best. So without further ado, the Italian hotel star system. So 1-star is obviously the lowest it can be. And this means it needs to have a 12-hour reception. The double rooms need to have a minimum of 14 meters square. I think the single rooms are something like 8 meters square. They need to change the linens once a week, but clean the room daily. Yeah.
When one person is.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Not like they're not going to rotate.
6 other people are sharing linens. Welcome to Italy. We have no air conditioning, and you share linens with strangers.
Just kidding.
I'm kidding.
Okay, but that's not what you're saying, though. If you are staying there continuously through the week, they will change the linens once. Interesting.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's kind of like, I think now, amazing, we're already having a brief aside, but now one thing we noticed during, I don't know if it was during COVID so much, it was like maybe just before or just after, but it was like due to like basically environmental standards. A lot of bigger hotels were not washing things once a week or once a day, which kind of makes sense. Like I know it gets a lot of flack, and I get like I know a lot of people hate it because it's like a cost saving measure by the hotel. Like it's not all of a sudden the room's not cheaper. You're just not doing what you used to do. It's kind of like when airlines started charging for bags. It's like you didn't make the ticket cheaper. You just started charging for something that was free. This is ridiculous. And I think it's the same thing, which by the way, on that note, we are going to hopefully one day soon talk about one of the things that's happening is passing through American Congress, I think right now, is a ban on airlines charging fees for families sitting next to each other. So when you book a ticket next to somebody, you get to sit next to that person for free. And that's what you and I found a few years ago is like overnight, it seemed like we went from sitting next to each other to booking tickets and sitting nowhere near each other. And they're like, oh, we had to pay extra for that. And I'm like, since when? I booked the tickets together.
That is ridiculous. I can see somewhat of an argument for like, extra bag fees. Not really, but I get it. I mean, but going back to the towel and sheets thing, that to me does have a pretty direct environmental impact.
Yeah.
Because if you're using gallons and gallons of water every day to wash things which are pretty much clean, that doesn't make any sense.
Right. Exactly.
So that I get.
Especially because like at home, you're not washing your sheets once a day. You're not washing your towels once a day. It's like.
And that kind of has been a long time coming. I remember that I went to Disney World once when I was not that little, but I was younger. This was probably 15 years ago, I'm going to guess. And there was
You were like 14 when you went to Disney World?
Yeah.
Really? I thought you were like 10.
I've been a couple times.
Oh. I've been once, y'all. I think I went to the one in Florida, whichever one that is.
I think I've been 3 times.
Really?
Yeah.
My God. You grew up with Disney?
I know.
The mouse is part of your childhood.
Yeah, but so anyways, I went when I was probably 12, 13. Anyways, 15 to 20 years ago, it was kind of new. This, like, there would be signs in hotels and things that were popping up, like, if you want to help us out, and it was propositioned in an environmentally helping way, but obviously it was saving money. That was when it seemed new to me in the U.S. that hotels were like, you can save the environment by leaving your towels on the rack and we won't change them. Leave your towels on the floor if you want them to be washed and help us out. So
I appreciate I was going to say here, it's leave your towels in the bidet, not on the floor if you want them washed. A lot of places will have leave them in the bidet if you want them washed.
Oh, I didn't even
realize
that.
I thought was really funny.
I try not to leave towels on the ground because
I know,
find that weird.
Who puts a towel on the floor?
I have the little, you put the little foot towel on the ground, but then I fold it and put it like next to the shower so they know not to take it.
Or like if it's a bathtub, like over the bathtub.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be used. Exactly. But I hate when people just drop it. I'm like, you don't drop a towel on the floor in your own house.
No, I find that disrespectful.
Right?
Yeah. So anyways.
So as soon as you start doing laundry, you stop doing that because I feel like you're just, anyway.
But it feels like even for Americans, like a long time coming, these sort of like initiative of not washing towels and sheets every day. So
that makes sense though. And that's, I think, and so that basically is something that has already been happening in Italy for a while. And part of that is just simply, we've mentioned this in a bunch of other episodes, and we will continue to mention this, especially as we talk about much later down the line, for those of you interested in living in Italy, what that could mean. But Italy does have most of the utilities are artificially inflated. So it's just as an effort to reduce people's reliance and usage on them. And while some regions have quite cheap water, some regions do not have cheap water. So it can make doing things like laundry a huge physical or financial burden on
a dryer isn't standard, which we've said before. No. So if hotels are having to do massive amounts of linens every day, you only have so much dry line space and only so much sun. So
yeah, that's a good point as well.
Okay.
And so the last thing is essentially 40% of rooms in a one-star hotel need to have a private bathroom. The other 60% can have a shared bathroom.
Interesting.
It gets to be, there's a little bit like, and I didn't write down all these, by the way, because I just wanted to write down the things that are the most important. There are things like, for instance, a one-star hotel, I think, has to have a minimum of 8 rooms. So it's essentially, by and large, like 3 of those need their own bathroom, but the other 5 can share one. But it's like the shared bathroom can't be more than X amount of rooms can use the same bathroom kind of thing. Because I thought it was like shared between like 2 rooms. It's not. It's shared between multiple rooms. Yeah. which can really change things. And that's something that Darcy and I do look like. If you look at Booking, which will be a link in the description to Booking, by the way, if you want to help out our lovely channel. It's not a channel. What am I talking about? It's a podcast channel. If you'd like to help, I sound like a YouTuber. If you want to help out the channel, we have a YouTube, but it's the podcast. If you want to help out our podcast channel, there's a link in the description to Booking. And if you book through our link, we get a little kickback from Booking. It does not make your trip more expensive.
It doesn't charge you extra.
Right.
It charges Booking.
Booking just like loses, 0.3% or something like that of the booking fee to us, which is, potentially money. So if you'd like to help us out, that would be a fantastic way to do so. Link will be in the description. And the reason I mentioned Booking is because it will tell you on Booking, and I imagine Expedia as well, if it has a shared bathroom or an ensuite or attached. Definitely check the language on this though, because there are, I think, a hotel signs up for Booking and then puts in what that room has, because sometimes there's a lot of interplay between ensuite bathroom, attached bathroom, private bathroom, and because sometimes it'll be a private bathroom not attached to the room.
Right.
It'll be a private bathroom across the hall, so you kind of want to check for ensuite, or you want to check for attached, or something else that means you can go from your bedroom to the bathroom naked and nobody's going to stop you.
I think it's also important to note that price wise, it's not always cheaper to get a room with a shared bathroom. So all of these sites where you can go through and click, if you're not booking directly through the hotel site, if you're booking through Booking, you can click, attached bath, ensuite bath. It's like I'm saying, basically it might be the same price for somewhere where you're sharing a bathroom with three other rooms as another hotel where you have an ensuite bath. So it's not always like a, savvy cost saving measure to share.
And that's a really good point, because it isn't, and maybe we can talk about that actually after this, because location is pretty much the cost saving thing here. But you're right. I think there's an idea that I can split a bathroom with somebody for a day or two and I'll save a good chunk of money. That's not always the case. And I think that's a really smart thing to bring up. And that's basically it for One Star. It's super basic. It's super simple. You and I have, and we'll talk about this later, but you and I have seen a lot of One Star. I think we've stayed at One Star hotels a couple times, and it's not bad. It's not like, this is a terrible place to stay.
Yeah, it's not like what did we call them? Not we. What did people call them? Like a roach motel?
Yeah.
It's a phrase? Yeah,
it's not like that. And I will say too, before going to this 2 stars, cleanliness is part of it. However, from what I can find, except when you go from 4 stars to 5 stars, wear and tear does not seem to be part of it. I'll mention this later, but I stayed at a 4-star hotel, and there was some wear and tear, just people hitting the inside of the elevators dinged up because they hit it with their bags. The doors are dinged up because they're hitting with their bags. We stayed at one that was a 3 stars, kind of nice, but then it was it's getting older. So that all to say is sometimes a 4-star hotel isn't necessarily this pristine, wow, this is going to be fancy. It could just be it's been there for a while. And I've also, and I should have mentioned this earlier, is this 2009 law only is in effect for things either built or turned into hotels after 2009. Prior to 2009, they don't have to adhere to these laws necessarily. I couldn't figure out what they adhere to. It doesn't seem like a previous rule. It seems like they still have some sort of star system, but it seems like it's a little more lenient based on
interesting.
Because and as I'm going to mention in the 2 stars, 2-star hotels have to have a lift, have to have an elevator. But if you built if you made a hotel in 2007 and weren't even thinking about that, or if you renovated an apartment to be a hotel, and you're that kind of now affects you adversely, because that's an immediate one. So that's it doesn't matter. You could have the nicest hotel, but it doesn't have a lift. It's a 1-star, and this is what we're going to talk about later when we say sometimes the star thing can just be really not helpful when it comes to booking a hotel.
Okay.
So without further ado, let's go into 2 stars.
Okay.
So it's all the previous things. First off,
which are, can you list them again? I forgot.
12-hour reception. The double room has to be a certain size, which is no smaller than 14 meters squared. Small room, single room, I think is 8 meters squared. Change of linens once a week. Room cleaned daily, and then at least 40% has to be private bathrooms.
Okay.
So that's so all these star systems will be the previous plus, or the previous and then expanding on something. So the 2 stars is all the previous, plus there has to be a lift, it has to be an elevator. and we talk about this more, but that can be shared among the other hotels in that building. It doesn't necessarily have to be theirs. The 2 stars is also, they're going to change the linens twice a week during your stay rather than once a week. So it's a little bit nicer. And 2 stars have to have a breakfast in a common area. It has a breakfast service in a common area. Technically, a 1-star hotel has to have a common area as well. But the reason I didn't put this in there is because it could be the reception area is a common area. And they stick a bench in there and that counts as a common area. So it's not really like
that's not really a benchmark.
Not really a benchmark.
Okay.
Hilarious. Going straight to number 3. No, the first thing is bar service. This does not necessarily mean that it has a bar. I think, and we can mention this again later, a lot of this is mentioning later, but we stayed at one that had like a little coffee machine when you walk in the reception. I think that's considered bar service.
Okay.
The reception needs to speak at least one foreign language. Yeah.
Interesting.
So if you are, well, and this depends again, dear listener, I will say that a lot of times the reception will speak English just because it's so commonplace, especially in bigger cities. And I mean, a lot of these hotels that are 1, 2, 3 stars, they are family-run hotels. So they might have like their kid who speaks English, who learned English in school, who speaks English. He's like 10 and going to check you in. But if you speak something that's not English, then you're probably not listening to this podcast. So that doesn't help very much.
That's a really good point because we are only speaking English.
Yeah. So I'm just not realizing that because I was thinking like, but you should probably use Booking or something like that to figure out what other languages they speak. And Booking will have We Speak, and it's usually English, French, Spanish, German, Italian, and like oftentimes there'll be one other interesting one like Russian or Croatian or like Portuguese. And I mean, because I don't know. There's always like one extra little one through in there, but by and large, a lot of the Romance or what is German? It's not a Romance language. It's
I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah, right.
But I was going to say
Germanic.
That, somewhat unhelpfully, a lot of places do speak German. In Italy, a lot of people do speak German because Germany is so close. But in my experience, most Germans speak English. So
there's
really a lot of overlap there.
It's kind of a shame. And the difference here, though, is that 3 stars is when the reception has to be open 16 hours instead of 12. So it's not huge, but it just means, and I should also add that 1 star and 2 star, it is a 12-hour reception, but there has to be somebody on night call. So if you have an emergency at night, you can call, there has to be a number you can call that somebody will wake up and help you with something.
Oh my gosh. Every time that we've stayed in a place that only has, 12-hour reception, I definitely thought that there was nobody there.
Yeah, you could be dying. I'll get you in 2 hours.
You're calling, what is it, 112?
Yeah, I think so.
That's the emergency number. That's who I would be calling if.
Yeah, not the front desk.
Yeah.
And that just means like instead of 8 to 8, it might be something like 6 to 10 is the reception.
Okay.
So again, this is only important because if you're coming in on a late flight, you might have to organize with the reception that you're. And this is not from the States, by the way. There's no late flight from the States. Almost all the flights from the States will leave the night from the States and arrive the morning into Italy. But if you're coming from somewhere else in Europe, you might be, especially on like Ryanair or EasyJet, something like that. They do these like midnight flights that get in like 2 a.m. in Rome. And then, you might not necessarily meet the reception there. You have to organize that ahead of time. Interestingly, a 3-star also means that the staff has to have uniforms. I know. So this is all...
What an odd stipulation.
And this is what I was going to say is like sometimes the stars mean nothing because it's just like, again, it could have a lot of the amenities of a 3 and 4-star hotel, but if it's, again, a family running it and they don't have uniforms, like I'm not paying for uniforms, then it won't have a 3-star.
What constitutes a uniform? Like khakis and a dark colored shirt?
I think a shirt that has a official...
like a logo on it.
Potentially, yeah.
Oh,
just at least like a hotel so-and-so. Just make it super simple. That you look like you work here. It can't just be like an Adidas shirt.
Interesting, okay.
And then internet. 1 and 2 stars don't have to offer internet. They typically do, but they do not have to offer internet. And then 3 has to have basically private bathrooms and a daily cleaning of the same things as before. I think the linens can still be twice a week, but it has to be daily cleaning of all private bathrooms. And I think it's pretty much every room needs to be private bathroom, or 90% of rooms need to have private bathrooms.
Okay.
So again, it's one of those things, if you're like, I need a private bathroom, I need this, I need that, then you might want to start at 3-star instead of 1 or 2. 4 stars are where it does kind of start getting a little bit better.
Okay.
For lack of a better word. It's daily cleaning as well as an afternoon turn down. So they come in and straighten up the room.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
Daily linen change. They have to offer washing and like linen service for all guests. So if the guests need, like, not for free, but there has to be something that if you
an
need
option for washing your clothes.
Exactly, if you need your jacket pressed, if you need, if it's a business thing.
Oh wow, so fancy.
Right, okay. I thought that they need to have guaranteed parking for at least half of the rooms.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, which again though is a bit of a because the minimum I think on rooms is only like 10 or 12 rooms, so that means you only need 5 to 6 parking spots.
But if you're in a big city, that means that the hotel is renting out parking spaces in somewhere.
And that's the thing why a lot of times a 4-star and 5-star mean, again, this is why I think why we wanted to do this episode is because it doesn't always mean that much nicer, because it could be like literally the nicest hotel, but they just don't have parking.
Right.
And then they don't get the 4-star or 5-star, because again, this is every tier is going to be the previous tier plus these things.
That's fascinating. Okay.
And I think, so even when I stayed in Naples, I think they had some sort of parking, but it was like literally like a part of a lot they were renting out around the corner, down the street. The rooms have to be slightly bigger. You need to have 15 square meters instead of 14 square meters to double rooms. Okay. And then you need a minimum of 4 square meter bathroom, which I thought was kind of interesting, just because
I guess the other ones bathroom.
The other ones can be just tiny.
Yeah.
And then the front desk needs to speak at least 2 foreign language instead of just 1. And then last but not least, all 4-star hotels are mandated to have air conditioning in the rooms. And again, this is something that we can talk about in a minute. But we've stayed at a lot of hotels that have air conditioning in the rooms.
Mm-hmm. We've stayed in a lot of like 2 and 3-star hotels that have air conditioning. Mm-hmm.
And then there's the 5-star hotel. This will be the only one that we have no personal experience in talking about, because we've not stayed at a 5-star hotel. So the first thing is 24-hour reception.
Okay.
And the second thing is 3 foreign languages must be spoken at reception. It's also the rooms have to be bigger, 16 square meters for the double rooms, 5 square meters for the bathrooms, and 9 square meters for the single rooms. This is an older thing because it's this is from 2009. They have to offer satellite TV. It does not matter so much, obviously, in the age of streaming, but they still have to offer satellite TV. They also have to have a 24-hour baggage service. And I assume I'm not really sure what a baggage service is, so I'm kind of assuming it's something about like...
Does it mean a valet or like...
That's what I think it's a valet.
Okay.
I assume it's you have to, like even if you get in the middle of the night, somebody has to be able to take your bags. Interestingly though, one of the most interesting parts of a 5-star hotel, I thought, is you have to have a covered entrance, either under a porch or some other kind of shelter.
Interesting.
But every time we've seen a 5-star hotel in Rome, for instance, in Florence, there's always like that portico. There's always this like thing that extends out into the street where the cars can pull up under and somebody can get out. So it always has to be a covered entrance.
Which is such an interesting comparison to me, thinking about like the Holiday Inn style experience in the U.S. that has, I mean, all of them have the little driveway covered entry thing. Exactly. But that's so different than the like what you think of as a luxury. I mean, I don't think of Holiday Inn as a luxury hotel. It's just kind of standard American.
Sounds like a wealthy person talking, Lucy. That to me is the peak of...
I mean, they compared to like what we stay in...
the free continental breakfast. I was very excited.
Yes. Compared to what we stay in the U.S., a Holiday Inn has a lot of amenities.
Yes.
To be clear. But I don't think of that whenever I think of like American luxury, air quotes. I don't think of Holiday Inn. It has many amenities, but it is not what I would call like luxurious. Where the 5-star Italian hotel, my mind does think of luxury. And when you're talking about the hotels in Rome where they have the valet and the covered, entry, it's not a Holiday Inn styled like family looking beige brick entry. It's like a fancy wrought iron glass roof. There's like a carpet under it, it's different.
And then I think that's the thing though. That's that kind of classic difference between American 5-star and European. Not that it's worse, it's just there's a level of you can do the base minimum of 5 stars, and it's like, I have everything, so technically I'm there. And it's like, right, it just doesn't look like 5 stars.
And some of them look like very fancy. You know?
For sure.
But you're right, it can be like, we meet all the requirements, but it still doesn't feel luxurious.
Mm-hmm. And the last thing for a 5-star is noise reduction. They have to have some sort of active noise reduction. It's like whether it's in the walls or the flooring or something that actually makes it a quieter experience, which is important because if you are, and I wanted to bring this up, if you are American and you are used to carpeted hallways, more likely than not, a 5-star hotel might be the only place you'll find a carpeted hallway in Italy, or you're staying, you want to stay at like the Marriott or the something like that, like the any big brand American ones. The American ones will use typically carpet in the flooring, but because tile is so much more used in Italy than carpet, even in really nice hotels, you'll still have a tiled floor. And I think the only time, again, this really matters is the noise reduction. It does not reduce noise at all. It just, somebody talking down the hall can sound like they're outside your bedroom door. Last but not least are 7-star hotels. I wanted to bring this up briefly. Right. I wanted to bring this up briefly.
Wait, we just skipped 6? There's no 6?
That's the thing. So a 7-star hotel apparently is, one, it's not garbage. It's made up. It's a invented thing.
Okay.
But it's essentially a hotel that is so much above a 5-star hotel that it skips 6 entirely and goes straight to 7. So, and there's a handful of like in the world, I guess. I mean, I think Italy has one, but it's become kind of a thing. Like journalists like to use it, and a lot of.
But it's made up.
Well, it's made up in the sense that like nobody recognizes the bottom rate 5-star and a top rate 5-star are the exact same 5-star, but like there's one in Dubai. I think it's the one like built on an artificial island, has a little helipad on top. It was built in 2002, I want to say. And it was like the first time where a hotel was just above and beyond any other hotel that had ever kind of been built, kind of thing.
It sounds obnoxious.
Well, they're like, this isn't isn't 5-star. This is 7-star. It has like each suite has their own personal valet, rather than like using this. It's this whole like super specific thing. There's actually a great photo. Andre Agassi and Roger Federer played tennis on the helipad on top of the roof. I can't imagine it's a very good game because you're hundreds of feet in the air and there's winds just blowing. So I can't imagine it's that interesting a game.
But they felt cool.
Well, it's for advertising, I think. Okay. It looks terrifying because there's no fence around the helipad. It's just like if you go too far for a ball, you're just like diving off the edge.
Okay.
But there's a few of them, I think, in Europe that are just like these incredibly top tier hotels. And I think journalists like to call them 7-star hotels because it's like we've transcended 6 and gone straight to 7. It's just not a real thing. So in case you are looking for... in case you saw that on like Instagram somewhere and you're like, we want one night in a 7-star hotel. It's kind of like a 5-star Michelin restaurant. It doesn't go above 3. And whether you're barely a 3-star or whether you are the top of the 3-star, you're 3 stars. And I think it's the same thing with 5 stars. So that's all, to say that, 7 stars don't exist. And what I didn't talk about, but, I mentioned that every star has something from the previous ones, all the stuff from the previous ones included. And so I think it was 2-star that has to have a dedicated breakfast spot. But that really kind of means restaurant as it gets farther along. So 4 stars and 5 stars tend to have an attached restaurant. Again, this restaurant does not have to be good. It just needs to be a restaurant. And I think in next episode, we were going to talk about different types of lodging, I think, in Italy, just to kind of give people... if you're listening to this and you're thinking it's just like if there's a hotel or Airbnb, there are other lodging options in Italy, and some of them are attached to restaurants. So again, this idea that like being attached to a restaurant isn't necessarily, it's not necessarily like a gold standard. It's not like, oh, it's attached to a restaurant, it must be amazing,
right?
So with that being said, I think that is I think that's a pretty good way to tie up the 5 stars.
Yeah. Okay. I have some comments now that we've been through.
Perfect.
Okay.
Let's share the comments.
It's interesting to me that this system was put in place in 2009 because it seems like something that, and they did have some sort of star system before that, right? But like you said, it wasn't as regulated.
It was done by the region. And then they had, even before then in the 80s and 90s, it was called not tiers, but like, it was like 4th tier hotel would have been the bottom. It was now 1 star.
Okay.
And then it went, and then the 1 tier hotel would have been 4 stars, and then it was like luxury hotel would have been what is now 5 stars.
Okay. It's interesting to me that like I said, that it was instituted in 2009 because this seems like something that would be super helpful back in the day, not that long ago, but like in the 90s.
With the guidebooks?
With the guidebooks. And whenever you arrive to a city, you get to the train station and you look around at the hotels, or you go to a neighborhood you've heard of and you look for hotels.
Or you follow one of the people yelling at you to come to their hotel.
Exactly. But whenever you see on the sign, because a lot of them have how many stars their hotel has, will be on the sign outside the hotel. And to me, that makes sense. If you know in your head, or if your guidebook says, 1 star means this thing, 2 star means this, you want to make sure, I'm going to a 3-star hotel. It will have an attached bathroom, that makes sense to me. If you're doing it when you just hit the ground running. But it makes less sense to me now that we have Booking and Kayak and all those things where you can, or even hotel websites where they list exactly what is in the room. No matter how many stars they have, you'll know what it has, because you and I have stayed in lots of different hotels, mostly 3-star and under. But by and large, like you and I always get a room that has a attached bathroom.
For sure.
No matter what the stars are, we always get an attached bathroom. They often have a lift, no matter how many stars they have. They often have a TV, which
we never use, but hey, it's good that's there.
Sometimes I watch the Italian TV shows, or the dubbed American movies in Italian. But they almost always have an air conditioner. The front desk or whoever meets you often speaks more than one language.
For sure. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that either are listed when we look online and book. They're listed, we go through the checklist, no matter how many stars they have, or they've just become ubiquitous.
Sure.
Like the speaking more than one language. So I don't know, it's just interesting to me that it's kind of a newer system, but...
Well, something to consider is that we have also entered a different age of tourism. And because the internet is getting people, I think, to go to smaller towns and smaller unseen regions, like I don't think anybody can name a single city in Molise, for instance, let alone point it out on a map. I think a lot of people, even if you look up the best places to visit in Puglia, almost across the board, they will put Matera in Puglia, and then even say, like, sometimes they'll even say, like, it's not technically in Puglia, it's actually in Basilicata. And part of that stems from the fact that Basilicata used to look different in Sud Puglia, and Matera used to be the capital, I think of Basilicata, but Basilicata used to expand well into Puglia, and now it isn't. But the point is, I think it was one of those things where it's like Rome had a bunch of 5-star hotels, but then like Molise had none, and it was like, right, because they don't have the same standard. Like, no, you can't run a 5-star luxury hotel in Molise if no one's coming to visit. So I think it became a thing where just having like an ensuite bathroom meant like you were doing, because I'm also thinking like one of the things that surprised me the most of that TV show Ripley, the one that just came out or whatever came out like a year ago, but is he got a room in Positano, I guess, and there's an ensuite bathroom. Yeah. And I thought that was super, super surprising given the fact that there's like no space in Positano, and unless he's staying, I assume that, I didn't know if that was supposed to be subtle, like he's staying at a really luxury place that has an ensuite bathroom, because I think of the 50s.
Or they just missed that, because at the time period, yeah, I remember being surprised by that too, because at the time period, most places would not have had
an ensuite bathroom.
Some places people were living in their homes still had outside bathrooms.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, like the 50s, especially here, like most people had outhouses still in the 50s.
Here, meaning we're in southern Italy.
In southern Italy, yeah, not in Positano. But no, it's like people still had outhouses and things like that. So it's kind of like, Matera didn't have, using that as an example, everybody, we talked about this in one episode, I think, is I don't know if you guys didn't catch it. Essentially, everybody was forcibly removed from Matera because they had rampant cholera.
Cholera, yeah.
And they had to put in a sewer system, and it wasn't inhabited again until like late 90s. It's basically anytime you want to film a movie in Jerusalem, or like in
what is it, the Passion of Christ?
Passion of Christ is filmed there. The one that just came out. Gosh, I can remember the name of it.
The Book of something?
The Book of Clarence.
Yes.
Thank you. That was filmed in Matera. The James Bond movie came. James Bond was not filming. It was supposed to be Matera, but still, it's like it has a very. It's called troglodyte. It has a very specific look. It has people living in caves. But you can imagine the difficulty in putting in a sewer system, obviously. So all that is to say is like this is at a time where a lot of the country either didn't have a sewer system, didn't have a lot of times like where we are, running water was not really a thing. You still had to go to around, and you'll notice this in Rome too, but there's a lot of wells or like fountains now that used to be wells, but especially in smaller towns, and they're placed in areas that were kind of communal. So you go to that place to get your water and you bring it back in buckets, and that's what you have water for cooking and for cleaning and this and that for that day. So all that is to say is like, so the scene of, is it Ripley? I have no idea.
Yeah, I think his character's Ripley. I've only seen the first episode.
I know. I watched the original with Jude Law. Not the original, I guess, because the original's older than that. But I watched the Jude Law one with Matt Damon. So anyway, seeing the ensuite bathroom was just such a like, what? Like that must be insanely expensive for especially because they're in a town where I am willing to bet that like 10% of the population at the time would have had a bathroom attached.
Right.
And especially, and we've mentioned this in previous episodes, you can actually go around a lot of small towns like Positano or Amalfi or anywhere along that coast, or even Cinque Terre, and people have converted either their terrace or their balcony into a bathroom. And we stayed in a place in Rio Maggiore that was clearly, they converted either part of the bedroom or balcony into a bathroom, because that would have been the only free space to use. So all that being said is, yeah, that is the one that kind of, to me, makes sense, because it's like, you might have a place like Rome that is a little newer, has more space. So when you're building a hotel, everything can have an ensuite bathroom. But you have like, I don't know, people, even Venice. I think that's a good example of something where it's like, you have to renovate an existing structure to put in a bathroom. You're not building really in Venice. You're kind of just renovating what's there.
Yeah.
And unless you are, some of the nice hotels obviously were built. But I'm thinking like the smaller little neighborhood hotels might be like, nobody has an ensuite bathroom, so that's not part of the star system at all. Instead, and nobody has parking, obviously, because you have a car. And I think that's a good, maybe that's a good one too. It's like, because like right now, Venice, if you need parking, for instance, that means you'll never have 4 stars, because it's like, how do you have parking in Venice?
Right.
So that I'm assuming these kind of things are ignored when it comes to like figuring out the star system, because some of them are just simply, it's impossible to,
to accommodate
certain things like that.
Interesting.
And one thing I did want to mention, actually even going into personal experiences, is, for instance, the elevator. I think is something I want to start with. While a 1-star hotel does not have to have an elevator, technically, it doesn't mean that there isn't an elevator in that building. We actually recently stayed at a 2-star hotel, and across the hallway was a 1-star hotel, and it looked so much nicer than the one we were staying at. I think one of the things though is inside the elevator, you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 as you go up the flights, and they have next to it hotel this, hotel that, hotel this, albergo this, whatever it is, and the hotel across the hallway didn't have any of them. So my guess is simply that they're not renting the
multi-floors.
Oh no, I was thinking they're not renting elevator use, but it also could be not renting multi-floor, because that's the other thing.
I was thinking, like you said, that you have to have a certain amount of rooms in order to get to different levels of star levels, and that one also didn't have. I think ours had 24-hour reception,
which is kind of an interesting one to have. Like, I'm like, I don't know what they meant by that.
Well, someone was always at the desk.
I guess, but again, it was a family-run thing, so I'm like, it's like,
yeah, it was like the
aunt comes in, the uncle comes in, the grandparent comes in.
The grandfather was there at a certain point, because I remember.
Oh my God, the water was off.
Yeah, the whole block, the water got turned off, and I went and talked to the little grandfather-y guy.
Oh my! It was like 11:30 at night. We got back from having a nice dinner, and we're like, I can't wait to take a shower and go to bed. And we're like, there was no water. I just want to take a shower.
But that was not on the hotel. That was on the city of Rome.
A classic.
But like you said, the hotel across the hall, they only had, I think, like 8-hour reception. Somebody was gone by whatever it was, 9 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, though, the thing with the lift is you need a lift if you have more than 2 floors. And again, it's a little confusing on whether or not, if you're already on the 4th floor, if you need a lift or not. Because you'd think you do. But, and I think if I may quickly on the elevator lift, we've mentioned this before, especially when it comes to Rome, but I figured now's a good episode to mention it too. And it's something we'll continue to mention. So I guess if you miss it here, you'll hear it in a different episode. But the elevators are not what we consider big.
They are not like OSHA approved. Most of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not OSHA's American.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I mean by that is, like, in America, we have an elevator that you could probably fit 6 or 8 people in. You could certainly fit
with doors that open wide enough to accommodate a wheelchair. Exactly.
Here, some of the elevators can basically only fit one person at a time, or one person in a small suitcase.
Sure.
They're most of the time, whenever Nathaniel and I stay at hotels, he is large. You are a 6'4" person. I'm a 5'4" person. And we each have like a backpack. usually we can't both fit in the elevator at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So that is standard. That is what elevators are. They have been retrofitted to go inside the center of the stairwell of an already existing older building. So they're not, brand new buildings with wonderful giant brand new elevators. They are an elevator retrofitted to fit in a very small space.
It's kind of like those.
You can get upstairs if you can't physically, walk up the stairs.
Well, it's like the square stairwells that you'll see in old buildings. It's just in that little gap is where they put the elevator typically. Sometimes if a building has an interior courtyard, they'll stick the elevator there as well. However, it does not mean it's going to be a big elevator. And lastly, I just want to also mention the doors too. Typically, it's either folding doors or swinging doors, like you might see like on a kitchen or something like that.
It's old school elevators.
It's old school. It is not sliding doors. So think of like just as, I mean, you can, you'll realize this when you're getting in the elevator, but you can't like shove yourself in and have the doors close behind you. You have to physically close the doors. It's a bit of a hassle. So all that is simply to say too is, because when we went traveling with your mom, something she didn't even think about was looking for elevators. And I think some of it you and I knew, like, at Rio Maggiore, I'm like, there's not going to be an elevator. And I think she booked a place in Naples, and I'm like, it's not going to be an elevator there either. It was just one of the things where I'm like, no, of course not. This is...
And I didn't even think about it either, because you and I usually travel with backpacks, and we're fairly ambulatory. And, I don't... If I get winded, you can go up, because I walk slower than
wait for the top.
Yeah, and you can go ahead and book in. I'll wait on, the second floor to catch my breath, But it's almost something that I don't think about, because we are usually somewhat okay getting up the stairs. But if you're someone who's not, it is, you'll have to, make sure that's on your list to check when you're booking, because it's just not standard having an elevator.
And last on that note is, and this is kind of going aside, I've only seen this a couple times, but not all elevators are free. There's one place we stayed at, you had to actually pay to use the elevator. And once you got up to the floor, they gave us, I think they gave us 10 cents or something, because it was only 10 cents to use the elevator. But they gave us pocket change to use the elevator. But it was, again, it's one of those things where it's like the whoever owns the building put in the elevator, obviously, and wants to charge people for using it. And typically, like in an apartment building, and if you're going to stay in an Airbnb, and we'll talk about this in the Airbnb versus hotels / whatever else episode, typically you're allowed to use the elevator. However, again, that's something that you might not be able to, because that person who lives in that building might not have paid for it. I think you and I stayed in Scalea, and there was a hotel, there was an elevator, but the guy didn't have the key to use it, because he's like, I didn't want to pay, it was something like $60 a month to use the elevator, and he didn't want to pay for it. So he didn't. So it was like the Airbnb we stayed at in Scalea, you just had to climb the stairs. You couldn't use the elevator. And that's the other thing. So it might be a coin usage, it might be a key, it might be something like that. So all that is to say is we try to talk about this here, ideally before you book your trip, or maybe after you booked it, when you're doing some research, so you can kind of know what to expect. Because it was, I think for your mom, it was a bit of a, not even like, it wasn't disruptive, but it was just like, in Rio Maggiore especially, it was like, it was on the fifth floor.
That was rough. And it was like a 1.5 foot wide stairwell, and the stairs were like half the height of my leg. That
was ridiculous. And then there was no real, like, even the railing wasn't really a thing in some of the places.
It was like a piece of rebar on the wall that was kind of super wiggly.
So
it's great story in hindsight, but when you're going through it and you have heavy bags, because you're on a 5 to 7 day long trip and you need, lots of clothes, it's rough.
It is rough. Yeah. And that was the first thing I did want to mention, just as our own personal experience, was the lift. And the second thing is Google Maps or Google reviews, which I say Google Maps because you can get the review on Google Maps, but it's better than just Googling places, if that makes sense. That's a really good place to find more, not even just, is better reviews. TripAdvisor's okay. I don't really trust TripAdvisor, only because they keep getting in trouble for like taking down poor, like basically they offer you the you can pay to take down bad reviews. So it becomes a little like untrustworthy, I think. Yelp kind of in the same thing, but I don't think Yelp there's no like hotel Yelp. Is there? I think it's just food.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, but Google Maps, quite trustworthy. I think it's quite trustworthy. Despite that right now they actually just got some sort of judge, literally just like last night, ruled that they are violating monopoly laws or like antitrust laws, something like that. So they're basically engaging in monopolistic practices. Of course, they're appealing that because they're arguing that case, but seeing as everything in this world is either owned by Google or Facebook, it does make one believe that that answer is not far off. No, but they have on. So if you go to Google Maps and you kind of, you go through. We like to start with Booking. We like to go through Booking and find like 5 good, maybe 6 good ideas of what we want to stay in. We typically on Booking we go anything that's like 7.5 or higher, because anything under 7.5 is like not super. Like, I mean, Booking, people are very generous on Booking, which I love, because I think you and I are very generous as well.
And this is obviously not the star system. This is the
Booking internal system. Yeah. I know I give everybody 10 stars because I'm like, you're trying to make a hotel work. I love that for you. I know people hate the way I leave reviews, I realize, because not you, but like, I mean, it's like when you leave a 5-star thing for like an Airbnb, because you're just like, I really want you to succeed, but then you didn't put in your thing that like there's no Wi-Fi and the window's not open and it's actually really hot in there and the fan doesn't work, and then somebody comes the day after you is like, why didn't you tell me this? So I try to leave honest reviews, but typically as somebody who works online and gets reviews, I'm just like, everybody gets 10 or 5 stars, whatever you need. So that being said, is we typically find 5 on Booking and go to Google Maps and find the reviews on Google Maps, because they tend to be a little bit more honest and impersonal, for lack of a better word. And for us, like 3.5 stars is perfect. Like 3.5 stars are better, because even
on the Google format.
Google, yeah, because even nice hotels are getting like 4.1 stars, 3.7 stars, like super nice, like they didn't have a personal valet for me, 1 star.
Yeah.
So, these kind of things do change it a little bit. But no, Google Maps is a good way, because also it kind of tempers your expectations, as well as like some of the reviews are like 1 star, not fit for Americans. I think there's like literally somebody's review is like not fit for Americans.
Okay, the one I loved, this is, we saw it, I think last time we were staying somewhere. It was like, don't bring your American girlfriend here.
That's what it was.
Which
Loved it.
I love.
So apparently don't bring your American girlfriend to that one. I don't know why, but I just...
Well, it was all the typical stuff. It's like a small elevator. It's, everything's retrofitted to fit in an old building. The old building has multiple hotels in it.
Good point.
The bedroom is not like a 20 by 20 foot apartment luxury space with like a jet tub. It's got a tiny shower stall. They tried to squish in the bidet and the toilet and a tiny little sink. Everything is tile. Like it is an Italian hotel, and for me and you, it was like, yeah, this is normal. But I guess if you're trying to impress a stereotypical American woman, in that case, maybe she wouldn't like it. I'm an American woman, and I did like it.
I was gonna say, it's not like she didn't like it; it's just he didn't want to show it to his American girlfriend.
He didn't find it impressive, I guess.
Yeah, so I don't really know what the review there was. But that being said, that's I think a really good example of why we make this specific episode, is just to kind of like. Just do research. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, obviously. And at a certain point, even you and I, there's only so much you can do. Like, especially depending on your budget. If your budget, let's say, is $100 a night, there really is not much wiggle room in there. Like, you're gonna, you can get. And you mentioned earlier, like a shared bathroom doesn't necessarily mean you're going to save money. And I think that's right. Like, there are neighborhoods that are going to be much cheaper to stay in, just simply because it's not as close to things. However, it might be on like the metro line, or it might be on there's a couple of neighborhoods that are nice neighborhoods, and there's a bus that takes you like directly to the Vatican, or a bus that takes you kind of close to the Colosseum, but the hotel itself is not near the Colosseum or near the Vatican. It's 15, 20 minutes away on the bus. The city bus, by the way, not like a regional bus. Like, you're still in Rome. Let's not be crazy. But no, all these things, like, you might find, like we have found in these sort of smaller neighborhoods like Prati or in Flaminio or things like that, you can get a lot more for a lot less money. Like, you can easily get a 70, 80 euro room, 80 euro a night room. Without much, but that's, ensuite bathroom, really nice, little, kind of cute little thing. But also near the train station. During COVID, it was amazing. It was like, for us, it was phenomenal. It was like 50, 60 euros a night to be near the train station. It was just fantastic. And now they're all like 150 because, traveling is back and everybody wants to stay in their train station for when they leave. So that's the place that you have to kind of like let it be a little bit, like even one of these reviews, again, was like, there was trash outside on the street in front of their hotel. And there is, but that's just where the trash collection point is. Yeah. It was like we've mentioned this before, Rome, like almost every big city in Italy had these different trash collection points around the city where you put your, the plastic, the metal, this, that, it's just all in front of the place. So they're like, yeah, it happens to be in front of the hotel. the hotel cannot do anything about that. So that's just, again, these are the things that, like, when you look at the reviews, these are things you're going to find out. The biggest things I think you and I look for are loudness. Like, can you physically sleep while you're here? Both from street noise, but also like just, if the people next to you are having a conversation, is that something that's coming through the walls? Like, it's not, I mean, if people have, if they're yelling and shouting and watching a loud movie or something, that's one thing. But if they're just talking, it's like, and I can hear them. But no, we haven't really, but that's like, I mean, what's 1 to 4? Like, I even stayed at that 4-star hotel in Naples before coming, and I was so pumped. I was like, this is going to be a 4-star hotel. The guys had jackets on, like, at the front desk. I was so pumped. It was in a weird little, like, area too. I was like, oh, this is not a safe area. But it was like glass sliding door, and you come in, air conditioning. I mean, it was a ridiculously hot day. It was one of those, like the Scirocco days, like just hazy desert air. And they had these like cute little jackets, and I was like, I'm very excited to be here. Part of it is they had a little restaurant attached, and they had parking. And I think that was like the only two things that like made them. I mean, it was a really nice hotel, but it was, even though it was like nice, I had a great. The room was from a tiny little room. Like, I didn't realize how small 8 square meters is until you're in 8 square meters, and you're like, oh, like this is like a prison cell. This is tiny. But it did have a AC. And it had a huge bathroom. The bathroom was the same size as the bedroom. It had you were talking about like, jacuzzi tub. It did have the big one above your head that drops water on you. What is that, shower head? There we go. Really trying to figure out where
like the rain
shower? Like the rain shower head, but also had the ones in the walls that just like spray you.
Oh, wow.
I felt like I was in a car wash. It was so lovely.
That's the height of luxury.
It really is.
I was like,
oh, this is fantastic. No, but it had a little bar, like not like, I mean, it was a mini bar in the fridge. I'm not paying for that stuff. Had a hotel safe. That's the other thing. Some of them, I didn't put this in the comments or my notes because it didn't seem that important. But if you need a hotel safe, I believe it's 3-star hotels that do mandate every room has to have a safe.
Interesting.
Again,
that's not something you and I look for. We don't have things worth stealing.
Yeah. I mean, we probably do, but like for us, but like not for other people. Like this means a lot to us. Please don't steal it. But like, you can't get money for it.
So zero black market value.
Yeah, exactly. This is a 10-year-old laptop. I don't think it was worth anything. So no, that's basically, I mean, that was the nicest hotel I stayed in a while, and it was lovely. I mean, it was really just nice. But it was when I was there. And I was talking to my mom, and she's like, "Oh yeah, well that's just because it has, a hotel attached or a restaurant attached, and it has parking, and it has something else.
It hits all the benchmarks, exactly. Like we were saying, for getting the 4 stars. It doesn't necessarily mean it's luxurious, but it has this many amenities up to this point.
Exactly. I was expecting a hot towel or something like that. I was like, this is going to be 4-star. I have entered. This is the issue though with us. Like, as soon as we stay in something slightly nice, or like the one time we fly like economy plus, I'm like, I can never go back to economy. So
we took business class on the train one time. Oh my gosh.
Oh, amazing. That was phenomenal. We actually, that's speaking of episodes, we were going to do like a little video on that, but we don't want to be rude to everybody else on the train because they give you snacks. Like, they give you a welcome snack, which is it's wild. Like, I know they do that on flights, but I wasn't expecting this guy to come by with like, here's your welcome snack. If you'd like anything else, a complimentary beverage cart will be coming around. And Darcy comes back because we said no to the beverages. Darcy finds the guy, comes back with like Prosecco and coffees.
Yeah, I went and unshamelessly asked him, I'm like, is this free? And he's like, yeah, of course. What do you want? I'm like, well, I'll take a couple of coffees and a glass of Prosecco. And he laughed, and I was like, well, why not? And he's like, of course, why not? Would you like any more snacks? And I was like, well, sure. What do you have?
It was amazing. It was the best purchase we've ever made. If you're going to be on a long train trip, like more than 2 or 3 hours, and you can spring for the business, do the business, because it wasn't. And maybe we should even talk about this in another episode.
We should do another
There are
episode,
like discounts for traveling with one other person. Like 2 people traveling together is a discount. 3 people traveling together can get a discount.
People under a certain age,
people under 30 or over 55 can both get discounts.
So there's a real middle age area.
Yeah, between 30 and 55.
Yeah, you get no discounts.
You're just like, and if you're traveling alone, oh my God, no, you're on your own.
As a single person between 35 and 55.
Yeah, you're just
the saddest time on the train. You have to spend the most money.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly right. So sorry, this has got like off the rails, but I think we did a pretty good job of trying to hit all the points.
Before we go, I do briefly want to explain what to expect in a room. I'm just going to mentally go through.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because it is a bit different than, the American Western idea of a hotel room. So the hotel rooms, like you said, are, what is your meters? Like up to 3-star?
Basically, it's like 14 or 15 square meters.
Okay. So it's not like you're going to be touching the walls.
It's like 45 square feet.
You're not going to be touching the walls when you're standing like arms outstretched, but it is, the room is about just barely big enough to fit a double bed and a couple side tables. It's not much bigger than that. And then the bathroom that is attached is big enough for a like a single shower stall, where you very much probably cannot bend over in most of them. Like if you're someone who wants to shave your legs or something, it might not be possible. It's just big enough, the shower stall, to shower off. There's usually a toilet and a bidet and a small sink, but it is economy sized.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
There is usually air conditioning. Most of the places we stay have Wi-Fi. I don't think we've ever stayed in a place that didn't have Wi-Fi. It's just standard now.
It's also super cheap here though, so it's like I think maybe a couple years ago it was definitely something where it's like you had to really spring for extra money, but now it's like no, that's $25
to pay for the Wi-Fi. Yeah,
so $25 a month, and you can get like business Wi-Fi. 100 people can use it at the same time.
The floors are usually tile, which can be kind of abrupt as an American when you're expecting either wood or carpet, yeah, but or
linoleum or something.
Yeah, that's just standard.
And also, on that note, it can have a bit of a clinical feel, I think, sometimes a tile, because it's just like you're in a tile room, you're in this like kind of beige, yellow, whatever it is, kind of like non-confrontational paint color, and there's always that one light in the middle of the room. It's not like cute lamps, because I can trash Holiday Inn as much as I want, but like when you walk into your room, there's always like that one cute lamp on. And you're like, this is what's up.
Well, that's the lamps. Thing. The other thing to expect is that Italian interior design, I'm not going to go into it. We could go on a whole rant, but Italian interior design is it's not like rustic Tuscan country home. It is a bit clinical. The lights might be blue shades, like, blue color rather than warm colored. So it's just I'm not saying lower your standards.
But lower your standards for sure. Yeah, that's actually a really good way of putting it.
It's different. It's different.
Yeah,
things are different in Italy. So just as a warning, if you get there and you're like, oh God, what am I walking into? It's not that you chose a bad place. It's not that you're getting price gouged. It just is Italy.
What Italy looks like. That being said, though, I will say the breakfast this is not that important to note, but it's just something at the end if people are still listening and want to learn about breakfast in Italy, because it really isn't like the bowl of cereal or the French toast or the pancakes or anything like that you might find.
Pies and cookies.
I would say it's pies and cakes and cookies, and then oftentimes meat, like usually like cold, like what we call cold cuts, sliced deli meats, but like prosciutto and I don't know. I'm actually most like prosciutto is usually what they like, prosciutto and cheese. There's a lot of cheese, a lot of kind of sliced deli meats, a lot of fruit. They do a lot of like sliced melons and things like that.
Probably
yogurt, juices, obviously coffee. Don't be crazy. And that's kind of mostly it. It's a lot of like pre-prepared, but like no, it tends to go more into cakes, paste, that kind of thing, as well as like fruit and meat, and less so into like pancakes and cereal and French
there's
toast.
No like waffle maker like you got at the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, there's no bacon. That being said, we went to the Holiday Inn Express near the Milan airport for the night, and there was this like tray of bacon. We're vegetarians, so we didn't eat it, but I stood next to it and just smelled it for a while. I was like, man, that smells like America. I'm not even sure where you find bacon in Italy, but they found it, and it was really quite lovely smelling. I mean, from a distance. But no, that's actually like, lower your standards might be a little harsh way of putting it, but I think it's a pretty fair way of putting it as far as just, it's a different standard of, and I say that too, because I mean, if you're somebody listening to this and you're like, oh, I'm doing 5-star, please let us know how it is. Please send us an email, onlyabagofficial@gmail.com.
Make us jealous.
Make us jealous. We want to know. We want to tell people about what 5-star. You can send us some photos and let us know what 5-star looks like. It's definitely like on our dream. I mean, it's not that expensive. It really is only a couple $100 a night, where it's like if you're American, I don't know, $300 a night for a hotel room is not like...
Because hotels have gotten so expensive.
Like even where we were from in Savannah, that's not an obscene price. That's like, oh yeah, that's a going rate. And here, €300 a night is kind of like... that's a lot. I can get like 5 or 6 nights in another place for that.
And maybe one of the last things I think we should say is that this is August of 2024. We typically spend around €100 a night average. And that fluctuates. I mean, there are places where you can spend 65, 75 euros a night. At some points in the year, there's places where you can spend 150 euros a night for exactly what we've been talking about at some points in the year. So
you can absolutely, by the way, spend like 900 or 1,000 euros a night too in Rome. So that's not like...
Oh, you can. But I'm saying for the standard of place that we stay,
the
rooms that I've been describing just now, 1 to 3 star hotels can be anywhere between like 80 euros and 150 euros different times of the year.
Yeah, for sure. I just meant like the fact that if you're coming here to drop some money, like if it's a honeymoon or something, you can absolutely do it up. And maybe last but not least, if you are thinking about like Amalfi Coast, you're thinking about Cinque Terre, lower your standards even more. And I mean that again lovingly. But that is not especially like Airbnb and stuff. But and we'll get into that in the next episode. We're going to talk about Airbnb versus like the 7 different types of Italian lodging, basically. Not necessarily a versus, but just we're going to talk about the 7 different types of Italian lodging because I think it's easily viewed, like especially like an American point of view, it's either like I'm going to stay at a hotel or I'm going to stay at an Airbnb.
Or a motel.
Or a motel. And Italy has a lot of other options for lodging. But no, it's just something that like in really small, historically small, like Amalfi Coast, Cinque Terre places, there are not a lot of options. So you kind of take what you can. But again, you and I are not people who hang out in hotel rooms. Like we would rather spend $100 on a dinner and $100 in a hotel room rather than $50 on dinner and $150 on a hotel room.
Yes.
You know, if we had to spend $200, like we'd rather spend more on food than on sleeping, which is probably why I can't fit in elevators. So that being said, if this has enticed you to book something and you'd like to help out Only a Bag, you can do so using the link below. Why did I put on this like fun little like podcaster voice when I started talking about this? But basically, you can help us out with the link below. The booking link below is an affiliate link. So if you click it and you use it to book something, we do get a little kickback. I think it's part of 1% from bookings fees. So it doesn't cost you anything, and it does help our channel go. It also but it encourages us not to like run ads, which sounds like a very like or else way of putting it. But no, we don't really love the idea of running ads unless it's something we really, really believe in. So we thought like affiliate links are kind of a good way to meet that. Like, you have to hear about affiliate links for 5 seconds. And then if you want to book something, you can absolutely do so, and it'll help us out. But besides that, we have only_a_bag is our Instagram. Only a Bag Official is our email if you'd like to reach out with those beautiful photos of a 5-star hotel. And if you want to check out some articles, it's like and it's stuff that's going to basically between stuff that'll either end up as podcast episodes or you'll see the written version of podcast episodes as articles. But you can do so at onlyabag.com, where you can also sign up for our newsletter.
And you can contact us at any of those places if you have any questions relating to hotels or not.
Yeah. I think that's for the next episode, we'll talk about lodgings in Italy. But for now, this has been Nathaniel Mellor with Only a Bag.
And Darcy Melton talking about the star system in Italy.
Thank you all so much for listening and for leaving reviews and for commenting and everything you have been doing. We both deeply appreciate it.
We really do. Thank you so much.
And thank you for listening.
Goodbye.